Hold on. We're good. I forgot to type the title. We're going to have a little bit of dead air. It's fine.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, welcome aboard, everybody. It is Thursday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, joined by Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition. It is good to be back. Great to have John, the producer, back. A little normalcy again. Somewhat. So if there is any such thing, Dustin, normalcy, whatever that is.
Yeah, I don't know what normalcy is. What are we talking about here with normalcy?
Yeah, there is no such thing in normalcy anymore. College sports is different. But actually, it's college football. It's not different. It all stays the same because it's not today, but this Monday night, Georgia and Alabama will play for a national championship again. People are kind of been saying this for years, but people are tired of same old, but what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, what are you going to – I mean, we had an opportunity. We thought Michigan was going to give Georgia a run for their money. We thought that Georgia, by the way, they played in that SEC championship game, was maybe not as good as what we thought that they were, but they proved to be every bit as good as we expected them all season. And then Alabama, I give credit to Cincinnati, though. They went toe-to-toe, especially defensively, with Alabama for 3/4 of that game, even though it was a little lopsided, the final score. I don't know that there's been a team other than Ohio State in 2014 that's played Alabama any better in the first round than what Cincinnati did. So, I mean, it was just these semifinal games, to be quite frank, Jim, they've sucked for the past 7-8 years. They've just been bad. So hopefully we get a good national championship game because I think 12 of the 16 games or whatever the math works out to be have been decided by 17 points or more. No, but that's not any fun.
Nope. And I asked the question yesterday, when did we get to the point to where there were only 2 college football teams each season? When and why did that happen? Just all of a sudden, it didn't used to be that way. I did see that yesterday. I missed it yesterday, I think. But the Big 12, their ultimate goal is to get a series set up with the Big 10. Right now, the Big 10 plays 9 conference games. The SEC and someone else only plays 8. They're one of only 2 conferences that only plays 8.
ACC.
Which does them great favors because they're only playing 8 conference games. They get to go out and beat up on 4 people, and that's another game you're not going to lose. Well, the Pac-12 is trying to get something set up with the Big 10 to where they'll drop down to 8 games, but that 9th game, they're going to pick it back up with a game against the Big 10 and vice versa, of course. But the Big 10 will have to do that. They've been at 9 games for a few years. We've heard James Franklin every year at Big 10 Media Days going, I don't care what you do, just do it the same for everybody, which is, I agree with that. But if you have the Pac-12 and the Big 10 do that, you're still going to have the SEC. And let me guess who they'll pick up for their 12th game. The ACC. Holy cow. They might as well pick up my high school football conference. So there's that.
Yeah, the inadequacies with the scheduling has been frustrating, to say the least, because you could have probably had, look at Purdue, for example. They played 13 games this season. They played 12 Power 5 opponents / Notre Dame. I don't think there's anybody else in college football that has done that. Pretty much everybody outside of Indiana, I think, in the Big Ten played a Power 5 opponent. And Indiana didn't play a Power 5, but they played Cincinnati, which was undefeated and went to the college football playoff. So you had very few FCS teams on the Big Ten schedules. I think every SEC team played an FCS team. There just needs to be, like Joel Klatt on Fox Sports argues about this, there needs to be some sort of college football commissioner or SAR or whatever you want to call it to put out the parameters that everybody's playing by the same set of rules, because playing a 9th Big Ten team and playing an FCS opponent or playing a MAC team, that's going to be different on your endurance. That's going to be different for the future. Like, you can't tell me that the SEC not only benefits from the scheduling standpoint, they had 13 of 14 teams make a bowl game this year because of their scheduling model. I think other conferences would be able to do that if that was the case. But you can't tell me that playing 9 conference games and a 10th Power 5 opponent isn't going to hurt the Big Ten in the college football playoff in some of these bowl games when you're playing 2 FCS teams, or you're playing an FCS, a MAC, a Sun Belt team, and then somebody else. Like, to me, the amount of contact, the amount of physicality you give up in those 2 games, it's quite different.
Yeah, and that's the change. That there has to be a change. Now, when you've added in NIL, and I keep saying this, if you think the SEC was not the runaway leader in NIL before NIL was the NIL, you're out of your mind. And now that the NIL is legal, well, they're far and away ahead of you. They're so far ahead of you. Something has to be done. College football is not fun with this ending every year. That's why the NCAA tournament is a blast,
right?
Every year, because it is. You're just, it's Yahtzee, baby. You just throw it all in there.
This is why I've been clamoring for the longest time. I thought 4 was going to be the right answer, but it's not. You have to expand it. You have to get more teams involved, because this is to the point where you have, we got some fresh blood in there this year. You got Michigan and Cincinnati, but how many years have we seen Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and either Oklahoma or Notre Dame? That's pretty much been the 4 teams that have been in. And a large reason for that is because Notre Dame doesn't have a conference championship game, so they play 1 less game than some of these teams. So, NIL, I don't think it's going to level the playing field. I think it will help, because I think that you can entice some players to go other places. I think that eventually that will help, but ultimately the goal is to expand. Look, we've talked about this multiple times. The NCAA tournament expanded from 32 teams to 64, and now it's one of the most watched events of the year. And we finally saw a 16 seed upset a 1 seed. We've seen 15 seeds and 14 seeds. It's common to pick 2 or 3 12 seeds to upset a 5 seed. That's the kind of fun you're going to get. It's not going to happen right away in the college football playoff. There are going to be some massive blowouts, but after about 10 years or so, you're going to start to see the playing field level out, and you're going to get more parity across the sport. And that's ultimately what we want. That's my opinion. The answer probably is actually to go back to 2 teams, but that's not going to happen. To 2 teams, BCS, that old BCS system where all these games mattered. None of these kids opted out of these games because only 2 teams went to the national championship. There's been such an emphasis on the playoff that now these kids think that Rose Bowl games or Sugar Bowl games don't matter, but we're not going to contract. We're not going to go back to 2. So we might as well expand it. The more I think about it, the more I like that 12 number. I think that's a really good number. It's incentivized because you have a home game. Some teams will get a bye. And then obviously you get more teams involved with each conference and some group of 5 teams in there.
And I do not know why they just do not have the common sense to not have semifinal games on New Year's Eve. The first time they did this a few years ago, I was like, this is the most idiotic thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they don't have the common sense to not do it again. And they do it again. And guess what? They lost 4 million viewers. 4 million viewers. Shocker. Gee whiz. How do you not have the common sense to not do something like this?
I don't know. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. And if you are going to do it, if you are going to play these games on New Year's Eve, why would you not schedule it for like noon and 3:30 when people are going to be home before they hit their New Year's Eve plans? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why they do. This is something I'm going to point out, and if he's on this week, you can talk to him about it. But Jeffrey the Greek and Big Kurt on their Eyes on Big podcast laid out this scenario. Play the semifinal games first, that first week of bowl season. Then play your national championship game on January 1st. Then the college football season is over on January 1st. I would suggest you could play it right after the Rose Bowl, whatever the case might be. But that you're going to get people to tune in that first weekend, whether it's a Saturday, Sunday night, whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. But you can't play these games on New Year's Eve. That's ridiculous. Nobody watched.
But you don't have to. Why schedule them on New Year's Eve? They don't need to be on New Year's Eve.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't care when you play them. There's no reason to schedule them on New Year's Eve. It's just idiotic. They did this the very first time they had 4 teams, I believe, right?
It was either the first year or the second year, and they said that they would never do it again. And lo and behold, here we are, and they're going to do it back-to-back years. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why. Plus, New Year's Eve's on a Saturday next year? Why would you not just play it on that Friday night or the Thursday night?
Hello. Boom. Yeah. Common sense, man. Common sense. Ross Browner died, former Notre Dame star, played for the Bengals. Remember him from the days. I am not a Bengals fan, but I remember Ross Browner. Played on national titles for Notre Dame in 73 and 77. He won the Outland Trophy, best lineman in 1976. He was 5th in the Heisman Trophy voting. That's pretty damn good for a lineman.
No, that's back when the Heisman Trophy actually went to the best player in college football.
That's back when it meant something. Exactly. I don't get me started on that deal there now. We do have the national championship coming up on Monday night. A replay of the SEC championship, which means nothing to me, but I think it should be a hell of a good game.
I hope so. I mean, I would. It's awfully hard for a team to beat another team twice in 1 year, but you can never count out.
People say that. It's not if you're a lot better than the other team, it's not hard. But if you're not and you're pretty evenly matched, it's hard. And these teams, I think, are evenly matched.
I think so too. But Kirby Smart has never had an answer for Nick Saban.
Not too many people do.
No, I know, but as good as those teams have been at Georgia, for him to not come away with one win over Nick Saban, I don't want to say it's shocking, but
let's see.
Some of the decisions he's made in those games have not been good.
Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship. Nick Saban, has he ever? Well, I wish if he had lost, and that would have been a great question, because he's never lost to the same team twice. And to my knowledge,
this was the first year he's lost to a former assistant coach. Jimbo Fisher beat him at Texas A&M. That was the first time that happened. So imagine he never lost for however long it was, 15, whatever. I don't know how long he's been in Alabama off the top of my head, 15 years. Imagine if he does that twice in one season.
Welcome everybody along. We got to hit a break. Michael, the Music Man, Sam, Donald, Tim, Ross, Jennifer. We've got lots more coming up. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Traditions with me. We're back with more. We got a loaded schedule today. Matt Taylor, Chris Denari. Back with it here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our great friends at Southern Stone Restaurant at the corner of Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. Actually, probably some of the absolute best food in Bloomington, no doubt. It's also where they have Inside Indiana Basketball with Mike Woodson each Monday night at 7:05 with Don Fisher. Make sure you stop by and check it out. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration. Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun.
We'll also have Neddenriep as well. He's on the segment after this, or at least he's supposed to be. I sent him all reminders, and Matt confirmed with me. So Matt should be getting on here shortly.
Okay, so who's up next?
Matt Taylor.
The Jaguars.
Who's the interim coach for the Jags?
Me.
What's his name?
Does it matter?
No, but he's been in the league for a while. Darryl Bevel.
Now, the one thing. Yeah, I've heard that name. Man, what a tough loss that was.
Who?
The Raiders!
Oh,
yeah, the way they lost.
I didn't watch it. How'd they lose?
Well, Carson Wentz didn't play all week. Practice all week, rather. And
they got beat. Another close game they lost.
they got beat by a field goal.
Oh no!
There's the man, the myth, the legend himself, Matt Taylor.
Ta-da!
Man, you have the best studio. What kind of a setup you got there?
I have a like a USB interface and a microphone and a mic processor, and
Wow.
that's about it.
What kind of microphone?
It's
10
called
seconds.
a Heil,
That's what I got.
HEIL.
That's exactly what I have.
All right, here we go.
For Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Hey, welcome back. It is Thursday, and we are joined by one of our favorites, Matt Taylor from the Voice of the Colts. Matt, how are you, brother?
What's going on? It is freezing up here. How are you guys?
Man, you're not lying. It became wintertime all of a sudden.
All of a sudden,
Overnight.
Indeed. It's going to be like a high of 19 up here today, and I think even colder tomorrow.
I feel you guys. It's only like 60 degrees down here in Florida, so I understand completely what you guys are talking about.
Shut up. Smart Alec, man. Smart Alec. Well, maybe the Colts will get to go to the playoffs to someplace down south. But they've got some business to take care of first. A tough loss last week against the Raiders. Carson Wentz spent the week not practicing because of COVID, and they end up losing by a field goal, 23-20, but still very much alive and making things happen as they take on the Jaguars this week.
Absolutely. It was a disappointing outcome the other day, right? With a chance to clinch a playoff spot and probably in all reality clinch the top wild card seed, if you will, be that fifth seed inside the AFC had they won that game. But it's very fortunate for the Colts in that it doesn't doom them, right? It's not fatal. They get a chance coming up this Sunday against Jacksonville to clinch their spot in the playoffs. But here's the thing. And I know Jacksonville is 2-14. I get that. They've lost 8 straight games. I understand all of that. But this is a place where the Colts have not won weirdly since 2014. They've got some sort of mojo, some sort of weird hex, some sort of northern Florida juju over the Colts, right? I mean, you're talking about 5 straight losses for the Colts in that stadium. So it's still an NFL team with NFL players, and that, they're going to go out and play with pride and professionalism. And I still think it's going to be a really good game and a good test for the Colts. And it's certainly not a layup where they can just show up and, kind of cash their check, if you will, and make the playoffs.
Jets and Tampa Bay is all you got to say, man. Or was it New England they had down? I get them confused now.
Here's the thing. Like, if you look at their wins, they have the strongest. I know people are going to roll their eyes at this, but they actually have, of their 2 wins, they have the best strength of schedule wins in the NFL this season. I know it's only 2, but they beat Buffalo and they beat Miami, and those are 2 pretty good teams. So it's not as if it can't happen.
And who did they have the other day on the ropes? Was it Tampa Bay, Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, or New England? I can't remember.
No, they've been shellacked here lately. So you have to go back really in the middle point of the season where they've been truly competitive.
This is a new stretch for you, Matt. The 17th game. I mean, I think there's an added level of entertainment, added level of excitement for the NFL, and it seemed to be permeating through the broadcasts the past couple weeks. I mean, what are your thoughts on this new venture, this first time for 17 games in the NFL?
Yeah, it does. I know it's only 1 week, and at the beginning of the season, we were going to say, all right, we're going to play 17 games instead of 16 and have 18 weeks instead of 17. And you're thinking, all right, it's not really a big deal. It's only 1 game. But for the players, I know it's a really big deal. And for me, it's all of a sudden kind of caught up with me. Whereas this time last year, you're getting ready for a playoff game, right? The Colts were getting ready to play the Buffalo Bills. And it just, from a mentality standpoint and from a headspace perspective, it's just much different this year. I know it's only 1 week, but everything's just off a week. And when you're talking about, professional athletes and guys, especially football players that are so routine driven, having that extra week, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is, right? I mean, especially with this team having, that late bye where they didn't get a week off until mid-December. And so they really had to navigate it. And it's tough. It's been a tough season filled with a lot of injuries and drama, especially the last couple of weeks with COVID. The good news is the Colts no longer have any players on the COVID list after their big scare and flare up the last couple of weeks. So that's good. But guys have really been conscious of taking care of their bodies this year, and they're going to have to do that now going forward because it's not going to go backwards. If anything, they're just going to keep adding more and more games and playoff teams probably to the mix. So it's weird that week 18 or this week is another regular season week as compared to last year where it was full bore playoff mode and super wild card weekend and all that. So it's definitely added another layer to it. And I think for the fans, it's great because it's another week of football and it does add more drama to the clinching scenarios and winning you're in and things like that. More fan bases are involved in the drama of the NFL, which is why it's the best thing going. But I know for the players, they would love to have seen the regular season end last week.
Well, and this goes kind of with the NBA. They implemented that play-in kind of style, and a lot of us rolled our eyes with that, and also the addition of another game to the NFL schedule. But when it was all said and done, it added a new element. It added a new layer to get, as you mentioned, more fan bases involved for longer and deeper into the season. So I don't think it's necessarily I know it's going to take some adjusting, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for the sport. But one thing I did want to talk to you about, Matt, is get your perspective. I mean, you've seen him play every game this season. You've seen him the last 2 years. Jonathan Taylor, in your mind, MVP caliber ready? I know he was the leading vote getter among the fans in the Pro Bowl voting. He's been sensational for this team from start to finish. I mean, just this is the kind of year that Jonathan Taylor's had. And do you think he's MVP worthy?
I definitely think he's MVP worthy. There's no question that he should be in the mix. He should be part of that conversation. Unfortunately, I just don't think he has much of a chance to win it because it's a quarterback-driven award. Yeah, it's with what Aaron Rodgers has done this season, putting up the numbers statistically that he has, and Tom Brady in that mix as well. I just think it's in modern day, and I think we have shifted what that term means as far as the MVP is concerned in the last 10 years because it's been since 2012 that a non-quarterback has won that award, and I just think that the voters know that, hey, if you don't have a quarterback and if you don't have a guy playing, at a very high elite level at that position, it's going to be tough for any team to go where they want to go and win the Super Bowl. So I understand that, but no, I mean, where would this team be? Where would the Colts be without Jonathan Taylor? And, he's going to be the rushing champ. First time a Colts player has been the rushing champ in the NFL since Edgerrin James. He's going to lead the NFL in rushing yards and scrimmage yards.
He's got a new Colts rushing record, didn't he?
A new Colts rushing record. He's going to break, if he scores on Sunday in Jacksonville, he's going to break Lenny Moore's record for touchdowns by a Colt in a single season. And really,
I was thinking Lenny Lyles. Go ahead.
Yeah, Lenny Moore, the legendary Hall of Famer with the Baltimore Colts, and stylistically and what their offense has become. It's become Jonathan Taylor. He's been the epicenter of their offense, and it's really kind of gradually morphed into that as the season has progressed. I mean, in his first 18 games, his first 8 games this season, I crunched the numbers the other day. First 8 games for Taylor, he was averaging about 81 yards rushing on 15 carries, and he had 6 touchdowns, right? And the Colts were 3-5. In the last 8 games, he's averaging 136 rushing yards. He has 12 touchdowns in that span, and the Colts are 6-2. So it's really become evident that the offense surrounds Jonathan Taylor. But what needs to happen, though, and I know this is going off on a little bit of a tangent, but if you're going to run the ball 25 times per game with Jonathan Taylor and only throw the ball 20 to 25 times per game with Carson Wentz, I think that's an okay formula, and I think it's the appropriate formula for, given how good Jonathan Taylor is. But what you can't do is throw for 148 yards and still expect to win the game. It's just going to be tough because teams are selling out. They're loading the box. They're putting 8 guys in the box, and they're not trying to hide it. They're selling out, and they're being obvious that Jonathan Taylor is not going to beat us this day, and you're going to have to throw the ball on the outside to win. And that's just not happening consistently enough. I mean, if you look at the last 7 games for the Colts, they've been under 200 yards passing 5 times, and they're averaging only 168 passing yards per game in that span, which is 30th in the NFL. So again, if you're only going to throw the ball 25 times per game, it's not how many times you throw it, it's how productive you can be while throwing
efficiency,
the ball,
baby.
Right?
Efficiency, baby.
Instead of completing 15, 16 passes, you need to be at 21, 22 passes completed per game for around 230 yards with a couple of touchdowns in order for this formula to work.
And to me, that's where I guess this frustration, and I'll go get off my soapbox here, but I feel like Jonathan Taylor is doing it, and this is why I would consider him more strongly for the MVP than I think a lot of voters would, is it seems to me he's doing this in an era when I don't want to say we've completely forgotten about the running backs, but the running back game or the running game is not as prevalent. I mean, as you mentioned, you have to have an elite quarterback. You have to have great wide receivers and a good passing game to be able to win a Super Bowl. But for the Colts to be this successful on the ground, basically, because of him and to win as many games as they have this season, like I just feel
they've gone through.
He's done it in a time when nobody's expecting it to be done, and so for that reason, I thought he should get more consideration. But I totally understand your point, and this is kind of morphed into a quarterback award.
Yeah, and it's truly impressive. I mean,
it's the Heisman.
Taylor's over 100 yards, I think, in 8 of his last 9 games. And in that time, the Colts are just running the ball into crowded box after loaded box, and he's still getting 100 yards. And they're still moving the football. They're still getting first downs, and they're scoring 30 points per game on the regular. So it is remarkable as far as that goes. I mean, Jonathan Taylor routinely, Dustin, will turn what should be either a no gain or a 1-yard pickup or a 2-yard gain into a 5-yard gain, or he's going to rip it off and, break through the second level and break it outside and use that unprecedented speed for how compact and powerful he is. And get a 30-yard gain. We saw that against the Cardinals on Christmas night. If you watch that game, just over 100 yards for the game, but it was that 40-yard gain really at the beginning of the game that kind of set the tone and allowed the Colts to get the advantage in that game, scoring a touchdown in the first drive of the night. So, no, I mean, Jonathan Taylor, you can't go away from him because even if you don't have the advantage, Taylor is so good to be able to still, control things in the line of scrimmage and put you into favorable down and distances. That's why you can't just completely go away from the running game, even though you're going to be running the ball into some crowded boxes. And when, it's obvious more advantageous for you to throw the ball, but still Jonathan Taylor can still do what you want him to do at the line of scrimmage because he's that good.
He certainly isn't having that great of a year. The Colts need to win this week, obviously. And I know, like we talked about earlier, they're playing the Jaguars. And while everyone thinks that that's an easy win, it's not. They are any team that you play. Like I said, the Jets played against Tampa Bay last week and gave them all that they wanted. You said the key words. It's professional football with professional players. They're not winless, and you have to come to play because they're going to come to play. They're playing for a paycheck, and so the Colts have a lot to play for here. If they can get this win, how are they set up for the playoffs?
Well, right now it's pretty much a crapshoot, and that's why Week 18 is going to be so much fun because if the Colts win, they're in the playoffs, but there's a couple of other games that will determine their seeding, right? The Colts could finish. They're going to be a wild card team. We know that. They can't win the division. Tennessee's already locked up the division for the second straight year, so they're going to be a wild card team, which means they're going to go on the road in the first week of the playoffs regardless of who they play. But they could finish as the 5 seed, the 6 seed, or the 7 seed, depending on what happens in a couple of other games. The games that impact the Colts are the Bills-Jets game, the Patriots-Dolphins game, and the Chargers and the Raiders game. And it's going to be excruciating for Colts fans because that Raiders-Chargers game is Sunday Night Football. So they're not going to know who they're going to play or where they're going to go until about midnight on Sunday.
And looking forward to it all, brother. Are you ready? Are you ready for the playoffs?
I'm getting there. I'm psyching myself back up. The Jaguars are they're a different team compared to when the Colts played them back in Week 10, right? I mean, they got a bunch of guys on COVID still, which is unfortunate for them. And then they're down their top couple of running backs. They're down their top couple of wide receivers. So it's it's a war of attrition, as we all know here late in the season. But the Jaguars are a banged up team and an unhealthy team at the moment, obviously heading into the regular season finale, which has gone in and contributed to their 8-game losing streak.
But we've got a solid Matt Taylor that'll be there to bring it home to us, baby. Make sure you tune into him. I love when I have the opportunity to tune in when I'm driving someplace. It is awesome to be able to pull in the broadcast.
I appreciate
they
that.
are fun. They are fun to get to listen to. It's just like anything. Sports, I mean, we all like to watch it, but listening to it on radio is still it's just more fun. As long as you've got the right guy doing the job, and we do.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well, brother, go out and have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to talking about getting ready for the playoffs next week.
You got it, guys. Be good. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, sir. Matt Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts joining us here. Playoffs. We'll be talking about playoffs. That's just one of the greatest quotes of all time. I wonder if, and he had no idea at that moment. He knew that he just created a clip that will live on in, I hate to use the infamy, but in a polite word, in infamy. Dennis Green, Mora, and Iverson.
Practice.
Besides those 3 clips, are there any other clips that stand out? And those 3 to me stand in equality. They're there. They're all 3 up there together. Is there another clip that can join that bunch? I mean, those are 3, and all from about the same time.
Yep, you're right. I'd have to think on that. I'm not sure, but it was all in the late 90s, early 2000s is when they all happened, I think.
John, you got to be pulling these up. I mean, there are other great small short clips, but not those were rants. And rants of different sorts. Dennis Green's cracked me up. His still to this day, his cracks me up. I'm like, why was he so pissed?
Wasn't that a preseason game too, or was it a regular season? I always thought that was a preseason.
I don't even remember,
game.
but it didn't even matter. Who cared? His team
Right.
sucked. It didn't. Nobody cared. I was like, why do you even care, man? You want to crown our ass? Crown them. We knew what they were. We let them off the hook. I mean, it's just one of those. That's the greatest rant of all time because there's no purpose for it.
Right.
We have to listen to some of these when we come back. I know most of you know what we're talking about, John. You're going to pull those up. Dennis Green and but we got lots more. Chris Denari's going to join us. Cal Neddenriep. Listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. If you need a deal, they've got them. 0% APR financing, $0 down. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Sports what was his rant about?
Jennifer's got a good one.
No, his is the it's
I'm
the,
a man. I'm 40.
Yeah, I'm a man. I'm 40. Yeah, that's probably my favorite one.
That's a good pull by Jennifer. That's a good pull.
Okay, try to pull all four of those up, John.
Hey, give me real quick because you'll have Kyle come here, and I can try.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. That just gives
Green. And what's his about?
It's about the Bears.
Oh, the Chicago Bears.
You want to crown them?
All you have to type in is Dennis Green rant.
What's the other one? And you said
Dennis
Allen
Green?
Iverson.
Oh yeah,
Allen Iverson.
Practice.
And Jim Mora playoffs.
You know what another good one was? He wasn't really angry, but Bob Knight, when he did in all of my adult life, I've never understood the meaning of game face.
Yeah, and doing the different faces.
Yeah, that's a good one. But you can't really air it because that clip is all in his face.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, but you know what? Also, though, do you know what Todd would tell me? He said every year they'd go to the tournament and there would be something like that, and it was done with complete purpose. Said he was going in there. Said he was going to cause a stir. He's going to take the attention away from them. And he said he did it every year.
Wow.
Hey, Kyle, are you there? Can you hear us?
Hey, guys.
Are you cameraless
Kyle.
today?
I don't know why I didn't do anything different. I don't know why it's not on.
If you want to try to get off and get back on, you still have about a minute or so.
Okay, I'll try it again here.
Okay.
Ba-dum.
Hey,
There's a place to be.
I'm going to download all four of those clips, and we can during our open segment we can go through those.
I love them.
Excuse me.
I mean, they're just they just never get old.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring us back in. I'm sure Kyle will be back in shortly.
And
sure
$0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. Hey, if you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want. It's a tough market out there, man. Kyle Neddenriep joining us now from the Indy Star. Kyle, how has your holidays been?
Well, it looks from the video looking here, I'm been wiped off the screen, but I don't know what's going on with my camera, but hopefully the audio is fine.
Probably your audio's fine. It's probably if you go down that camera mic settings down there, that usually does that, but I wouldn't worry about it. We can hear you. That's the best part. Well, at least that's usually the best part for me. If they can just hear me, then no one needs to see me.
Yeah, I'll figure that out next time, I guess. I don't know what's going on.
You know, I'd say how was the break, but there is no break because I know right now there is all kinds of stuff going on in high school basketball. This week was at where was the tournament going? I know there's one up at up north, LaPorte. up north there, LaPorte. There's one at LaPorte. I was thinking that there was one south of here, just stuff all over the place.
Well, there's a big one that's the La Lumiere up in LaPorte. They're hosting it looks like a really cool I've never been to that civic auditorium there. I think it was built in 1929 or something like that, and it's sort of a non-school, more of a recruiting prep school type of a tournament. So not going to go to that, but yeah, that's going on. There's county tournaments this week for the most part, but holiday, the holiday break as it is. I mean, it's probably in the last 8 to 10 years, there's really been a lot of holiday tournaments that have been added to the schedule. I don't remember there being this many, in the past as there is now, especially the last couple of years. So, that's fun. I covered the Hall of Fame Classic last week in Newcastle, which Westfield won, and I've spent a day following an officiating crew around. That story actually came out this morning. That was definitely a blast and a nice peek behind the curtain to see what they go through in a day.
I can't wait is that out yet?
Yeah, it just came out this morning. It'll
Okay.
it's our Sunday. It'll be in our Sunday paper, but it's online this morning.
Looking forward to that. Yeah, that's just a cool deal. I always love stuff like that. I was able to get out to Tinley High School last week for CJ Gunn's debut. Fun game to watch. Were you there? I don't think I saw you there.
No, that was the day. Let's see. I was somewhere else. The next day I was with that officiating crew, and that game was the kind of the number one topic that was going around to all the officials. So you were, I'm curious to hear your perspective on what happened there.
Man, those are two very, very fast athletic teams. There was not a lot of, I'll be honest with you, there was not a lot of complaining as far as the fans, but it was an athletic game, and they were kind of letting them play underneath a little bit. Not terrible. I thought it was equal. There was no, but man, you talk about a game that went up and down, back and forth. But from an officiating standpoint, they were certainly letting them play, but it was a physical, you got two physical teams. Those teams are both physical, very physical guys. And if you're going to call everything, hell, they wouldn't have had anyone left.
Yeah. I talked to, I covered the Lawrence North game against Addicts 2 nights ago, and Jack Kiefer, because he was kicked out of that game, couldn't coach. In the Addicts game, and Omar Cooper couldn't play because of that. So they were without those two. I was
forgot
shocked
about that.
Jack Kiefer had never been kicked out of a game in his 50-year coaching career until that night. So, which I found stunning. But he came in as soon as the game ended. He came out of his car, into the gym, excuse me, and talked to the team in the locker room. So he was kind of getting text updates from his wife as he waited, and then came in and talked to the team. I talked to him afterwards, but I thought CJ Gunn played again real well in the game I covered. Had 23 points, and a little bit limited still, trying to get his conditioning back. But it's an interesting team because they're really young, but talented at a couple of the guard spots, and then they're kind of a more veteran front court. but they really haven't played together, because Gunn has been out.
But how much did it help them as a team not having him, because they've had to play without him? And I was like, man, they were 5-1 without him. So you add a player like him to the mix, they're going to be pretty deep. They might be better this year than they were last year.
Well, yeah, they're not as veteran for sure, but they are. I would say they're a team that's going to continue to get better because of what you said. Gunn mentioned that the other night. He said it kind of benefited me, to sit back and watch our younger guys play. Haven't played varsity before, and Xavier Robinson, their freshman guard, he'll be a name to know in the future. He's really good already. Kobe Bowles is another. He's a sophomore. A left-hander, not a great shooter at this point, but very physical guard, especially for a kid that age. So they've got some really good young talent coming up, and I think Gunn, is still, kind of figuring out how to play with those guys. I think they have a good chemistry though, and it'll be interesting to see how they progress moving forward. They have a couple of tough games coming up, and then the county starts next week, and they have Ben Davis in the first round. Ben Davis is a really good team, and they'll be good the next 2 years. Most of their guys are juniors right now. So that'll be a lot of fun. I always love covering the county, but Lawrence North is kind of a little bit of a mystery still, because like I said, they haven't had all their pieces together. And even the other night against Attucks, they didn't have Cooper because he had to sit out. So they're going to finally have everybody next week, and we'll see if they can make a run and win the county. They won it the last 2 years, so they're going for 3 in a row, and that rarely happens in the county. It's so tough to win that 16-team tournament in Marion County.
Yeah. Last thing about CJ, he's averaging, he's come back 2 games. He's averaging 26 points a game. That's not bad when you're coming off of an injury. And from now and the time I saw him play, which is probably a year ago, man, has he grown up. His shot he looks so much more confident in his shot. His shot looks so much more better. He was knocking him down from behind the 3-point line. He came in midway through the first quarter of the first game I saw him in, and just started doing it immediately. I think he had 11 first quarter points, and he ended up with 18 or 19 fourth quarter points. He hit 3 triples in a row and 4 triples in that game in the fourth quarter. Just that's the kind of player you like to see. But man, that's a big growth difference from where I saw him a year ago.
Yeah, well, I think too, and he came out like he started the game I covered, and he came out and hit a 3 and got a 2, a drive and a score, basically in the first 30 seconds, and he was off and running, and didn't score as many as he did the first game, but I thought played really well and took good shots. And I think with this team, if he would have been playing from the start of the season, it's a different team. They don't have Shamar Avance and DJ Hughes and Donovan McCulley, from that team last year. They were all seniors and guys who also took their share of shots. McCulley didn't really. He was more of a offensive rebounder and would score inside some, but definitely Avance and Hughes took their share. So this year was going to be a year where Gunn was going to shoot more and I think look for his shot more and be more assertive. And I think that's what we're seeing these first couple of games. And there were definitely stretches last year where, it looked like, I remember telling people this, it felt like he was about to take games over and really, maybe score 30. And he would have quarters where he would go out and have 10 or 12, but then would be kind of quiet the rest of the game. So I was looking forward this year to seeing that consistency. Could he do it? Really string together some complete games. And, unfortunately, he had the injury to kind of, keep us from seeing that through the first few weeks. But I think now it'll be fun to see what he can do the rest of the season, and can he put this team on his back a little bit? And I think, honestly, the surrounding talent around him is better than I expected it to be. I thought they would kind of be going through more of a curve of, replenishing their talent. But I think they're capable of beating just about anybody. And this is a year, too, where I don't know that the top of 4A is quite as strong, or maybe there's just not that. I think it's strong. I just don't think there's the maybe overwhelming talent that you can't beat somebody on a given night. I think anybody's beatable. I haven't seen any team out there where I think like that they're going to win it for sure. And I saw Chesterton play over the break, and I was like, man, I think they're a team that could, beat anybody on a given night. So that's cool to see some different teams too that have a chance maybe to make a run.
And I think that one of the things that seems like difference this year, Kyle, is there isn't that team that just stands out that like, these guys are not beatable because everyone has been beaten. I don't think there's anyone that's undefeated left, correct?
Well, Chesterton actually is one that is, they're not a Central Indiana team, but they're, I believe, ranked number 4 in the poll this week in 4A, and they're 9-0. There's a few others. Terre Haute North is 11-0. Again, they haven't. I'm curious to see them play. Though they haven't played probably quite the schedule yet that they're going to get into, and obviously they don't play in the MIC anymore. So that's a little bit different schedule than they would have played in the past. But they're a very well coached team. I think they are legitimately good. And then Penn is another team. They play Valparaiso this week. They're undefeated right now. I don't think that will probably last a real long time. But to your point, I think that, I agree. I think even a team like Fishers, who, they're unfortunately this year where the top 3 teams in the 4A poll are all in the same sectional, along with number 7, Westfield. So, Carmel, Fishers, Zionsville, Westfield, all in the same sectional. And that's, normally we talk about sectional 10 with, Warren Central and LN and LC and Addicts and Tech and those teams, and that'll be a good one. North Central's good again this year, but and Cathedral obviously very talented too. But I think that sectional 8 with Carmel and Fishers and Zionsville and all those teams is going to be really good. I'm looking forward this week to seeing Westfield. They're coming off the Hall of Fame Classic Championship, and Braden Smith, the Purdue recruit MVP, had a triple-double in the championship, and then Cam Hafner, the son of Scott Hafner, had 30 points in the championship game. So, they've got a really good team. They play Carmel on Saturday. So, potential sectional preview between those teams. Westfield hasn't matched up real well with Carmel over the years because of the size disadvantage they have against Carmel. But we'll see how that goes. I think they're a really confident team right now, and I think it'll be fun to see how they match up with them.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm just sitting here looking at a couple of things. There are 2 topics, seeding and a shot clock. I think the shot clock is a lot more likely to come into fruition for Indiana high school basketball than seeding, but seeding would certainly be beneficial. You mentioned those teams bunched together. I remember a couple of years ago when Floyd, New Albany, and Clark and Jeffersonville were all ranked in the top 6. And they're in the same sectional together right there as well. So you hate seeing talent, the top talent just knocked out right off the bat. So, but I don't know that seeding is, I think seeding is something they could do via conferences, but those teams are all in the same conference. So that wouldn't resolve that. But do you think that a shot clock is more likely than seeing seeding?
Yeah, I do. I think, I think down the road, and but then I hear from people saying it'll never happen in Indiana, and I kind of disagree with that. I think, and it may be, way down the road that we may be the last state in the country that does have a shot clock, but I think at some point, I think, and what I would like to see, I may have mentioned this to you before, is like have the 4A teams play, do a year where you have all the 4A teams play with the shot clock in their home gyms, and a lot of them. I know a lot of those gyms are already set up to have a shot clock. It's already, it's already implemented. They would just have to, get somebody on the scores table to run it and whatnot. And that's, I know that's easier said than done, but they're sort of set up for that. And I think those players are probably more set up for it as well at the 4A level. So I'd like to see a trial run, and all right, let's, all the home games played in 4A gyms. We're going to do a shot clock this year. Do it in the tournament at all the 4A sites and throughout all the way through the finals. And I think that may be a way to, judge get some data and see like how much does it change the game. But I think eventually, and you see more states going to it, the National Federation, even, they're allowing a shot clock, and some states were doing it anyway. So I think the tide is turning somewhat on that. And I don't have a strong opinion really, which is probably doesn't make for good radio or good talking. But I think, to me, it's like a lot of the games I cover don't need a shot clock anyway. So I'm kind of like, I don't necessarily, every time there's a game where it's low scoring, people are in my mentions like, we need a shot clock. It's we got to get it. We got to get it. Got to get it. Got to get it. But I very rarely, I'd say less than 5% of the games I cover, there's, outright stalling tactics, or there's a game where, if you had a 45-second shot clock or 35, it would even come into effect. I mean, I rarely see that. But again, I don't cover games that are, in other areas of the state very often, so sometimes I do go to Southern Indiana and maybe there are a slower pace to games, but I would say the only time I see outright stalling is maybe in a tournament game where the discrepancy in talent is so big that a team just tries to hold the ball. And honestly, I don't blame them. You play by the rules of what basketball allows you to do. If you're going to try to win the game, why would you run up and down with a team that's going to beat you by 70? I mean, so I people complain about that, but it's like, what do you expect? What do you want that coach to do? Just let them let them run up and down. I mean, there's no point to that. So, but yeah, but again, I have also covered on the other side the EYBL, which has a shot clock, and I love it, and I think it's great. And I can't say, speak out of one side and not say the other. I do like having a shot clock, but, and I do think a point that has been raised to me before by a coach years ago was, I think if you can guard a team for 35 seconds, you should be rewarded for it, defensively. And I never thought of that before he told me that. And I agree. I think, I think there's something to that too. So, again, I can go either way. I don't think it has a huge effect, but I don't have a problem with having it either.
Hey, so this would bring up a question that I have for you, Kyle. Would it be, I mean, if you don't have a strong opinion either way, maybe, but to me, okay, I grew up, in small school and stalling was a tactic at sometimes, but there's other teams that they may actually run their offense, but they can't get a good shot and it might take them 45, 50 seconds. They're not stalling. They're just trying to get the best shot possible. They're running an offense, they're resetting, doing all this stuff. And I understand the argument about if you hold a team for a certain amount of time, but maybe could there just be a rule implemented where you can't stall if you're holding the ball at the top of the key for 10 seconds, just standing there and nothing's happening. Maybe it's a technical foul or a turnover or something. Maybe that would be a solution to at least eliminate that aspect of the game.
5 seconds.
Yeah, I like that. I think there's a way to, it's sometimes too, it's just up to the defense, come out and, I see, people complaining sometimes when that happens, and I see the defense sitting back and waiting for the action to happen. So it's like, hey, there's two sides to this too. Come out and make them play. And then you see that sometimes, and it's like, all right, then they get out of the stall immediately because they know they can't hold on. They're not skilled enough to hold on to the ball long enough. What I would really like to see, and this is what I hate, and this is where I'd like to see a shot clock, is the end of a quarter where there's 1:15 left, and then we're playing for one shot. And I would like to see the numbers on how often that actually works out to get a basket, because I bet it's like less than 10% of the time. So I don't think teams work on holding the ball for a minute and a half. I don't think that's part of the practice probably. So if you're going to ask them to do in the game, I think it's probably asking too much. And I just think you'd be better off just run your offense with a minute and a half left. See if you can get a basket before the buzzer. So I just think that's where I hate it. It's like, man, we're wasting a lot of time here where we could be watching some good basketball. But again, that's me being selfish because I don't care who wins and loses in that game, and I know the coaches do.
I have one more question for you before I'm sorry to cut off Jim here, but feel free to not answer this if this gives away too much of your story, but it immediately popped into my head when you started talking about it. Why would anybody want to sign up to be a high school basketball official in the state of Indiana?
That's a great question, Dustin. I think for the three guys that I rode around with, they're all veteran guys. They're all different ages, though, which kind of made it fun. 63, I think 54 and 36. But even the 36-year-old has been doing it since he was a senior in high school, doing the obviously lower level games. Sure. But I think for them, it's partly especially for the youngest one, he's getting into college basketball now, and they joke with him he gets the comma games, he gets the comma on his check, and they don't, they're still, they're mostly doing high school games or very small college games. He's doing some Division I, so he's trying to work his way up, and where you can actually make some pretty decent money. Not like he would quit his day job, but you can make some decent money at that highest level. So that's part of it's financial, but I think for the large majority of it, it's just still being involved in the game. And I thought too, as I followed them around, I did note that, there's definitely some things you see behind the scenes, that the camaraderie between the officials, and as we come into different places, it's a holiday week game. So, we'd be in the officials' locker room, and there would be 3 officials kind of, getting ready to go to a different place as they were finishing their game previously, or vice versa, where it's, afterwards. And I was really, it's kind of their own team. It's kind of like you're on your own team as officials, and there definitely is a real close knit community within that community. So I think that's probably part of a lot of those guys used to play or used to be involved in some way, and you can still feel like you're part of something. And I get that. I feel that, as a long time ago former athlete myself, that would be kind of fun to be a part of that. But there are definitely, they take a lot of abuse, obviously, and you have to have some thick skin, and you have to understand too that your communication, and I learned this too, is they're trying to manage games more than maybe referee or officiate. Managing the game from, the perspective of, keeping things clean, keeping it moving, communicating to the players and the coaches. That's maybe the biggest thing of all for the officials.
Let's see. The last thing I wanted to talk about is Brady Allen. He's the Purdue commitment, but to me, he could be the best quarterback to come out of the state of Indiana in a long time. I love this kid. He's just a winner, and Purdue got a good one with him, and I think he is going to be a college talent.
Oh, yeah. I do too. I didn't get to see him play a lot because they were down at Gibson Southern, but I did see the last couple of games of his career, and obviously had followed him throughout, watching highlights. And I think the thing in person you see is the that he can make all the throws, and that he's legit 6'5". Very good size. Honestly, Jim, I've given up on trying to figure out how quarterbacks do at the next level, because it is to me, it's like the hardest thing in the world because how many times, I remember Gunnar Keel was like, I don't know how this guy can miss. I don't know. And he was, he was a good college quarterback, but probably didn't produce to the level we thought he could coming out of high school. There's many instances of guys where I've been more skeptical on some, and I won't say who they are, who haven't produced as much, but there's many times where I've been wrong. And it's so hard, the fit of the program, how they can figure out what offenses they're doing. But yeah, I agree. I think Brady Allen's very talented, and I think he'll do well at Purdue, but I've kind of gotten out of projecting quarterback. Anything else, guards, off guards, even other positions, linebackers and stuff, I'm fine, but I don't know about quarterbacks. It's really hard to project.
Now, will you be going up to La Lumiere for the basketball tournament up there this weekend that's going on?
No, we don't really cover those teams. It would be fun. I would like to, but we've got our own stuff going on here.
They're all academy type teams. None of those are high school teams. It's La Lumiere. It's IMG. Who else did I see? Oak Hill, maybe. So it's not any of the high school teams in that tournament. But we do have Jalen Hood-Schifino and several others that we'll be keeping tabs on. What's up next for you?
Tonight I'm going out to the Hendricks County semifinals, and then still uncertain on tomorrow. I'll be somewhere tomorrow, and then Saturday we'll be headed to Carmel Westfield, which should be a great one. And then the county tonight will be Brownsburg, Plainfield, and Danville, and Avon. So always some good basketball in Hendricks County, and that should be a good tournament. The championship of that's on Saturday, so one of the better county tournaments.
Plenty of action going on. Thanks a lot to Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. We appreciate you, brother. Talk at you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you very much, Kyle Neddenriep joining us. We're back with plenty more. We've got Chris Denari yet to join us, and high school basketball to talk about, as Jalen Hood-Schifino is in the state playing ball. Back with that and more after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
If you're in the market.
All right, I've got all 4 of those rants ready to roll. The Dennis Green, Mike Gundy, Allen Iverson, Jim Mora, if you want to dedicate this next few minutes to those.
So we only have 2 more segments, right?
You have a short one here and then 2 after that.
Oh, so we have 3 segments.
Yeah.
When does Chris come on?
9:50-ish.
And how much time do we have?
You'll have about 8 minutes to do this here if you wanted to do it.
So we have enough time to do all of that in this stuff, huh?
Yeah, I would say so.
And then the last segment is basketball.
Okay.
I'm out the last segment,
Perfect.
which is good because I don't know anything about Indiana high school basketball. So
Bing.
the Big Ten is not fun to watch this year either, by the way.
Oh, dude, do you know what game was on at 9:00 last night?
Was that Michigan State and Nebraska was 7. The 9 o'clock was who did Northwestern play?
Penn State.
Okay.
I was like,
Probably blew him out of the water.
Penn State's off to they're not bad. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that on this show.
Okay, what time does the last segment start?
10:10. Yeah, 10:10.
Penn State 2-2 in the Big Ten. How about that? They're ahead of Purdue, Iowa, Indiana, Michigan, Maryland.
Who are you talking about?
Penn State.
The Knits.
Yeah.
The Fighting
Did they beat
Nittys.
somebody? Did they win again last night?
They beat Northwestern.
Yeah,
I think Northwestern was up big in that game and then blew it. Based on what I saw on Twitter, I watched the Pacers suck.
Northwestern was up on their Michigan State when they played them and lost.
Oh God! Well,
All right, I'm ready for a little fun with these clips. So here we go. Coming back.
Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. I hope you're having an enjoyable day. We are. We're about to have a little bit more fun. There was, I forget what brought it up earlier, but it just got me to thinking of the greatest rants in
We were talking
Pro
about the Colts
sports.
in the playoffs.
Playoffs. You cannot even say the word if you're ever talking about sports and say the word playoffs without that just coming to your head. Not me. I cannot say that word without that clip instantly coming to my head every time. Playoffs. And it's so funny because none of these people knew at the time that these were instant these clips were instantly infamous is not the word, but just locked in time, man.
Like viral.
These are time capsule clips. These were the original, viral clips of all time. In no particular order, but what do you have first?
Let's just go ahead and do Jim Mora since you've already brought it up. So here we go.
When you turn the ball over 5 times, 4 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, 3 others in field position to set up touchdowns, you ain't gonna beat anybody I just talked about. Anybody. All right? And that was a disgraceful performance, in my opinion. We threw that game. We gave it away by doing that. We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked. You can't turn the ball over 5 times like that. Holy crap. I don't know who the hell we think we are when we do something like that. Unbelievable. 5 turnovers. One of them, we've thrown 4 interceptions for touchdowns this year. That might be an NFL record. That's pitiful. I mean, it's absolutely pitiful to perform like that. Pitiful. What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Another game.
That's all. I mean, what did that take? The actual part of it. 3 seconds?
Yeah.
3 seconds. And it's just one of the most indelible clips. What? He said, what? Playoffs?
That's my favorite part is that little stutter. Like, he's just shocked by the question. Like, that's the best part of it.
He was. And that's what makes it so good because he was truly shocked. What? Playoffs? All right. Jim Mora from the Colts. What do you have next?
Let's go. Let's stay in the NFL. Let's go Dennis Green.
No, we just the Bears are what we thought they were. What we thought they were. We played them in preseason. Who the hell takes a 3rd game in the preseason like it's bull? We played them in the 3rd game. Everybody played 3 quarters. The Bears are who we thought they were. And that's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
I never understood. It's a preseason game and he's having a stroke. And I'm like, what's he all been out of shape about? I never did understand that. It always cracked me up. I'm like, it's a preseason game, man. You're not it's so funny. I love them. But yeah, we still haven't even got to my favorite. Let her roll.
Next
man.
up, my personal favorite, Mike Gundy.
If you want to go after an athlete, one of my athletes, you go after one that doesn't do the right things. You don't downgrade him because he does everything right and may not play as well on Saturday, and you let us make that decision. That's why I don't read the newspaper, because it's garbage, and the editor that let it come out is garbage. Attacking an amateur athlete for doing everything right. And then you want to write articles about guys that don't do things right and downgrade them, the ones that do make plays. Are you kidding me? Where are we at in society today? Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. I'm not a kid. Write something about me or our coaches.
Okay, you're mullet. That's mulletless Mike there, man. Totally mulletless, man. No mullet.
Mike.
No mullet.
He looks like a completely different person.
I'm telling you, I'm like, holy cow! He was.
Dustin, were you the editor that let it come out?
No, I was in college when that happened.
I'm just kidding, obviously. Last one. I'm assuming, Jim, this is your favorite, Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
No, what is your favorite one? You said
I'm just saying they're all good.
Yet.
They're all
okay.
good. They're all good.
All right, well, here we go.
It's easy to sum it up when you just talk about practice. We sitting here, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice. Not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that, man? We're talking about practice.
I know I'm supposed to be there. I know I'm supposed to lead by example. I know that. And I'm not shoving it aside, like it don't mean anything. I know it's important. I do. I honestly do. But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice? We're talking about practice, man. We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice. We ain't talking about the game. We're talking about practice, man.
Some oldies but goodies. Speaking of goodies, Chris Denari is coming up next to join us. Go ahead, Dustin.
My favorite part about that is he kept going so long that he just went with it. He realized he didn't realize it at the moment, but then after 30 seconds, he was like, I'm just going to keep rolling with this.
Well, what cracked me up is he kept saying he knows how important it is, and he knows that it's right, and he knows this, and he knows that, and he knows this. But I'm going to do it anyway. We got more important things to do. Chris Denari's up with us next. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone.
I know I'm supposed to be there.
Whether it's a celebration or just
I know that I need to be there, and I know that I'm supposed to be a leader. And we were just having fun with some old time clips. Chris Denari.
Yep, that's practice.
Oldies but goodies. We had Dennis Green, we had Jim Mora, and what was the other one?
Mike Gundy.
Mike Gundy.
Oh yeah,
Mike Gundy.
mulletless Mike Gundy.
When he said, "I'm a man," is that the?
Yes.
Oh, man, I'm 40.
Oh man.
Hey Dustin, did you happen to see what Lance did last night?
Oh yeah, I was tuned in. That first quarter was incredible.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that ever.
Well, Sir Lancelot.
That was
that was amazing television.
It was. I'm so glad I tuned in.
John, there's your snippet, Sir Lancelot.
NBA record. Or not record, but first time a player's come off the bench and scored 20 points in the first quarter.
Right, and it's in 20. I mean, 20 points in the first quarter. No pacer had ever done that.
And
in his first game,
not even Reggie, baby. Of course, Reggie probably didn't miss any games.
And 10 on 10 shots too, wasn't it? Didn't he only miss one in the first quarter?
Yeah. I mean, he was. I think he was 8 of 9. Maybe
8 of 9. Okay,
I gotta look.
I know when I checked the stats when he left the game in the second quarter, when he came back out, he was 9 of 11.
Yeah. Let's see that first quarter. I got it here. He was first quarter only. Oh wait, wrong game. 8 of 9. He was 8 of 9, 4 of 5. He had 20 points in 6 minutes and 23 seconds.
That's incredible. And you know what? Well, maybe I should save this for the show. But he wasn't even after that. He wasn't even looking to he was still the distributor when he came back in.
Right.
Like he was not just chucking up shots to heat check.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is that it doesn't matter almost who's been on the Pacers this year. The Pacers are the #1 scoring team in the first half. They score the most points. They shoot at the best of any team in the league. And in the second half, they're dead last. I mean, it just – now, last night it was
– sorry, Chris, for coming back. Sorry to interrupt you.
I mean, those three guys.
The all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It's Thursday. I hope your week has gone well. Ours is, because we've got Mr. Chris Denari with us. And, man, we were talking in the break. What a breakout performance by Sir Lancelot. Yeah. Lance Stevenson last night.
Yeah, it's just too bad it didn't end up in a win. But what we were treated to last night was an amazing experience. You know, he comes back. He has not worn a Pacers uniform in 4 years. He's now 31 years old. He hasn't played in the NBA in 2 years. I'm sure there was a lot of pressure. I mean, he is a fan favorite. You could tell that. You know that from, almost 10 years ago when he had those great years for the Pacers when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, I'm sure we build it up from a TV perspective because it was the return. And when he checked in, I mean, it was loud. It was a standing ovation. You thought, well, that might be all we get. You don't know what he's going to do. And he goes out and scores 20 points in the first quarter and single-handedly had that building rocking. And I can say this, I've done a lot of games in that building. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like what we saw last night.
Well, how would you even expect? I wouldn't have expected that from Reggie Miller. Seriously. No. I mean, that's a Reggie Miller-esque fourth quarter dream sequence. I mean, nobody does that because they had never done it before. And to do it in the first, it usually takes a minute to kind of get in the flow of things, and to do it in the first quarter of all quarters, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, Dustin and I were talking. He came right in and hit his first shot, and it was a 3-point shot. He had not made a three this year in the 6 games he had played in Atlanta and the 2 games with the Pacers. He was 0 for 8. And 3-point shooting's never been one of his specialties. But, I mean, the stars were aligned. I do think he still has talent, no question. He's a little bit older, but it was sensational, right, Dustin?
I mean, it was so much fun to watch, and that's what I was going to bring up. I mean, to me, this team at times has not been fun to watch, and I don't know how to put that nicely, but to have that kind of excitement, like I want to see, I don't know what they would have to do in order to make this happen. I want to see Lance on this team the rest of the season because I think he provides. The thing that I noticed, Chris, was this team had energy. And I know that we talked in the break. They're the number one team in scoring in the first half. They're a lot of fun to watch through the first 2 quarters, miserable through the second 2 quarters. But this team, like Domantas Sabonis was getting into it. Dwayne Washington Jr. was getting into it. I mean, it was just an exciting thing to watch. And for me, the way this team has struggled to give fans a reason to watch, and I know the attendance even has not been as what it was in the past, to give fans something – he just brings that aura, that spark that this team, this organization needs. And to do what he did in the first quarter, like I don't know that there's ever been a player who performs so well in one team's jersey and then just doesn't in another. It's kind of a remarkable story.
Well, and he has admitted now, and I think he probably admitted it years ago, he made a huge mistake in the summer of 2014 during free agency when the Pacers made him an offer, a very nice offer, and he took Charlotte's offer. And I think the next day he knew he had made a mistake, but it was too late. But you're right. Quinn Buckner asked me last night, he sort of turned the tables on me in the pregame, and he made me the analyst. Why is this guy so beloved? Well, if you go back, those 13, 14 teams that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, in recent memory, those are 2 of the best teams, in the last 15 years. And then in 16, 17, the Pacers were at the end of the year walking dead. They were not going to make the playoffs. And he is signed, and they win the last 5 games of the year to get into the postseason. Then the next year he stayed. That's when the Pacers made the trade. They got Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. They had an excellent year, and they took LeBron James and the Cavaliers in the first round to 7 games. They probably should have won that series. So if you look at Lance's history and the teams that he's been on, they've been highly successful. So it's not just him, individually. You're right. He provides so much energy, but he has been on teams that have won a lot of games. And I think that resonates with fans, and especially when you have a team that's really struggling. I tend to think this team, and it's hard to say when you're 14-25. I don't think this team is as bad as its record, but unfortunately, that's what the record is, and that's what you have to live with. And so, if you're trying to get some type of spike the rest of the year, now the question will be, how do they do it? He's on a 10-day contract. They've got 15 people under contract. They have two two-way players. So they're going to have to make some type of decision at some point here in the next 4 or 5 days if you want to keep Lance Stevenson. But I would say there were 15,000 people in the building last night that would vote, I want him on the team. And there are people that were watching on television that want him on the team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the course of the next few days.
I have some suggestions, but I won't air my grievances here publicly. But one of the things that I think when you talk about why Lance is beloved, Indianapolis, maybe more than any other city, embraces an underdog. And I think when you look back at Reggie Miller was never afraid of anybody. Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, he was never Charles Barkley. He was never afraid of anybody. The fact that Lance goes toe-to-toe with LeBron and is not intimidated by LeBron, he's not intimidated by Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, some of the league's best players to come in, even when his first year when he was playing limited, he was not afraid of those guys. And I think that's another aspect. The fact that he's played on good teams, the fact that he's been a talented player in the uniform, and the fact that he's kind of got that attitude and sassiness to him. I don't know how else to, he just plays with that edge. And I think that Indianapolis just gravitates towards that kind of attitude. So to expound on your point, I think that's also an element. Like, you just never know what you're going to get with Lance, but he's not going to back down from the fight.
Well, and that's one of the things, from a TV perspective and a team perspective, if you want to be, you've worked all day, you want to be entertained, you want to tune in and see something happen. And, I've always said that the group that the Pacers have, they're great guys. They really are. They're quality people. But a lot of them, they're like this. They don't show a lot of emotion. Doesn't mean they don't play hard or they don't want to win. And I think one of the things that this Pacers team has lacked is not having TJ McConnell. Because TJ McConnell brings that type of energy and enthusiasm. I mean, different players play different ways. Malcolm Brogdon's been a very good player for this team. He averages 20 points, 4 or 5 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists, but he's pretty poker-faced. And, coaches will say sometimes we need guys that you don't know if they're winning or they're losing, that they just keep everybody calm. And I would say that, looking over the past week or so, in some of those situations, the Pacers did need some of that calm, right? To sort of calm things down in the fourth quarter, maybe when the wheels were falling off. But on the other hand, I think you've got to have somebody like a Lance that brings energy, that has that enthusiasm, that gets the crowd going. And I would totally agree with you. We embrace underdogs. And Lance was a second-round pick. He was the 40th pick coming out of the University of Cincinnati. So I do think people gravitated to him. People in the market gravitated to him. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you are in age. I mean, it was a lot of fun last night. It was going back in history, but he did it. 31 years old. He proved he can still play.
And it goes back to, I think the other part of it too that I forgot to mention is he's mentioned numerous times how much he loves Indianapolis, how much he loves the fans. And sometimes guys like Paul George, even Victor Oladipo, sometimes you don't always get that kind of comment. So I think that helps. Last night's game, I felt like, I know it's kind of hard to, when you have so many players out, when I think they had 9 or 10 guys that have been sidelined the past couple nights, but it's hard to break this down. But at the same time, last night I thought one of the problems for the Pacers was late in the game, they were getting the ball into Domantas Sabonis, and there was a double team, triple team, and just too many turnovers, too much, trying to force too much, in my opinion. And then when they did kick it out, they couldn't hit a 3-ball.
Right.
I mean, is that been a problem in the second half of these games, just trying to do too much with Sabonis and not hitting the outside shot, or is that kind of an issue with just these past few games?
Well, I think one of the things that you've got to be able to move when the ball goes to Sabonis, and we saw that in the first half, guys were moving. I thought guys in the second half stayed stationary, and then that allowed Brooklyn's defense to really clamp down on Sabonis. The three-point shooting has been an issue all year. I mean, here's a team that went 10 of 20 in the first half, and they went 3 of 19 in the second half. And you had a guy in Justin Holiday who went 1 for 9. He was 1 for 7 the night before in New York. So he goes 2 for 16 after going back-to-back games where he was 11 of 18. And if Justin makes any of those threes last night, especially in the second half when Indiana was holding on to that lead, I think the Pacers win. But you can't allow a team that has, in my opinion, three of the best players in the world to get that close early in the fourth quarter. I mean, Kyrie Irving, he had 22 last night, didn't look like he had missed a beat in missing half the season. Kevin Durant is the best player in the game right now. He had 39. And then, you just have James Harden over here. He's the third wheel, and he's one of the best players in the league. So it was a very difficult matchup. We knew going in, you really don't say this in the NBA about upsets because there's so many games. But I thought it would be an upset if the Pacers somehow could win the game. And in the end, talent won, and Brooklyn got the win.
As the season progresses now with the return of Lance, I know there are 11 games under 500. What playoffs are a long ways away, but playoffs, we just played that clip too. Any chance this team can get things turned around? I know that already earlier in the season it was looked about man, it's time to rebuild, and they were talking trades and this and that and the other thing. But does Stevenson coming back, does he give them enough life to where they can maybe try to salvage the season?
Well, they've dug themselves a really big hole, and trying to get into the top 6, which guarantees you a playoff spot, that's going to be really, really difficult. You've got to focus on trying to get into that play-in situation that they were in last year. But here's the situation. Your upcoming games. Saturday night, you have Utah, who's one of the best teams in the NBA, like Brooklyn, one of the best road records in the NBA. Then you have Boston in back-to-back games, home road. Then you have Phoenix next Friday, one of the best teams in the NBA. Then you go west for 5 games. Here's your schedule. Clippers, Lakers, Golden State, Phoenix. That's your next, 8 games? I mean, that is an unbelievable schedule. And you've already lost 6 in a row. So, trying to find a win in that bunch is going to be very difficult. So, Jim, that's the other thing that before last night, in the first 38 games, they were 10 games under 500. Their scoring margin was -2 points.
Oh, my God.
-2 points. And they were 10 games under 500. That tells you how many close games they've lost. They lost another clutch game last night. And what clutch means is plus or minus 5 points at the 5-minute mark. That's considered a clutch game. They've now played 22 clutch games. So 22 of their 39 games have been a clutch game in the last 5 minutes. They've won 4. If you win 5 more of those, you're right around 500. The problem is they haven't.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats right now for the entire season, the standings. If you go across the points for, points against, it is divided by 0.2.
Yeah.
It is right. I mean, they are right in the middle ground there.
Yeah, their net rating, the NBA has analytics, and they have an offensive rating, a defensive rating, and a net rating. Their net rating, they're about 15th in the NBA. The problem is their record is 25th. So it's just amazing when you look at the numbers, but that's what happens when you have so many close losses. There's still a loss, whether you lose by 1, 10, 20, whatever. It still goes in the L category, and that's been the problem for this team.
I want to throw this
one free throw. That's one free throw a game, man. One shot a game. One bunny that falls that doesn't roll off the rim.
Yeah.
I want to throw this out because during the Christmas time, I don't watch as many Pacers games as I do before and then after because of bowl season and championships and all that. But where is this team with TJ Warren? Are they above 500, do you think? It's a speculative question, but.
Well, that's a great question. Here, they're better. There's no question. The other thing is, listen to this. I'm that stat nerd, right? I've got all these things. And a lot of times I don't use these on air, but I have them prepared. So of the last 2 years, 99 games possible. Your starting backcourt of Karis LeVert and Malcolm Brogdon have played 40 games. So 40 of the 99 games possible, those two have played together. I call them the core four, and I'm not even counting TJ Warren, Brogdon, LeVert, Turner, and Sabonis. They have played a possible 99 games together over the last 2 years. They've played 28. So that's, to me, again, you hate to pin stuff on injuries because everybody has injuries, but those are important numbers. I mean, so you do say, and I'm sure the front office is saying, man, what if we had all these guys together? The problem is you don't. And so it'll be interesting to see. But TJ Warren 2 years ago in the bubble was maybe one of the best players in the league. Yeah. And so we don't know, but we can only speculate.
It's all we can ever do, my friend. I hope you have you have a day off, one more day off before the next broadcast, I believe.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to see Kane Brown tonight.
Nice.
He's at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. So I'll make my way back downtown for a little country music.
Well, enjoy. Take a heavy coat.
Yeah, it's cold. It is cold. No question. Can you imagine? The Alabama and Georgia fans this weekend? They're going to be cold, right?
Yeah, good. Gives us something to complain about.
That's right.
Thank you, sir. Chris Denari,
Right,
I appreciate you. The great Chris Denari, the voice of the Indiana Pacers. We got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat, previewing Indiana and Ohio State tonight. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
I forgot to say goodbye to Dustin if you have to leave.
How about you introduce me and then I'll leave?
Yes.
We're back with Dustin Schutte. Oh, wait, never mind.
Who's leaving? That way I can say my goodbyes. 10:15. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Well, I'm glad that Chris at least agreed with me that they have not been entertaining to watch because, oh, my God, have they not.
No,
I'm surprised Jennifer watched. She doesn't usually watch the Pacers games from what I understand on Twitter.
What's that?
Yeah.
Jennifer doesn't usually watch Pacers games, but maybe having Lance back is what.
It's the thing. There really aren't any characters on this current Pacers roster.
There aren't. Which I don't have a problem with, but if you're not winning, then it's really not fun to watch.
Really, I guess you could say the best of the past 10 years of the Pacers had a ton of characters.
Yeah, well, usually you need that. You need that kind of passion. Like it's good to have one guy or two guys who are even keeled, but as Chris said, but if you got nobody that displays that, like, I just don't feel like anybody on that team has a killer instinct other than Lance. But when you played 6 games in the last 2 years, you're going to be winded by the time you hit the last 4 minutes of the game.
That's probably what it was. He just came in and was like, you know what, screw it. Who knows if I'll play again? I'm going to go balls to the wall.
You might as well sign him because that's the only way you're going to sell tickets.
All right, how much time we got? 40 seconds.
I think the Pacers are last in attendance this year. Or they were. I don't know about now, but. Crikey. Let's see. What's the weather?
Crikey.
That's 63 right now. It's a little chilly, Jim.
Oh, why don't you kiss my ass?
He's going to play golf in that. You better bundle up to play golf.
I might need a long sleeve out there.
I hope he loses all of his balls.
All right, here we go.
Podcast or on this station.
Talk about golf
If we're
before you
not on
leave,
the
real
station
quick.
where you live, we should be at for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Welcome back. It is Thursday. Dustin Schutte sitting in just a little bit longer before he has to bolt. It's always a blast. Thank you, sir, very much. He has to leave so he can go play golf.
I'm not playing golf today. I'm playing golf tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tomorrow. Well, I hope a storm.
I'm going to bring out the long sleeve shirt.
Oh my!
Tea time.
I hope an alligator eats your golf balls.
Hey, you know what? A sandhill crane did the other day. I tried to get it, and it chased me away, so I had to drop in the fairway.
It really grabbed it.
I don't know if it grabbed it, but it was in that area, and it did not let me.
So
get
what
close
you're
to
saying
it.
is, you were just a wimp and wouldn't get over and go get it.
You see one of those man pigeons start clucking at you, and see if you go chase your ball.
It's just a bird whose skinny legs is like a pencil.
I'm just telling you, the sound it was making, I was not going near it. I just dropped. It was a used golf ball too. It wasn't a new Callaway. What's your golf ball of choice? Do you have a preference, or does it matter?
Yeah, the last one I've purchased 1,600 golf balls 2 years ago off of Facebook Marketplace from a gentleman.
1,600?
100. I have never looked for a golf ball since. And couldn't care less where they go. I hit them and I don't care. I'm like, hey, that's not in the fairway. I'm like, I got more.
Well, there you go.
$60. $60 is all that cost me.
That's a great deal. I'm going to Amazon now.
It was unbelievable because there were tons of Pro V1s in there.
I'm going to tell you a quick story here because I don't care what golf ball I use. I'm not good enough to where it matters. I'll get a cheap at the store, whatever, doesn't matter if they got a deal going on. But my brother thinks he needs to, play with the nicest golf balls, and he got.
What does he shoot? What does he shoot?
Mid 90s, sometimes high 80s.
All right. Well,
he's better than me.
I'll give it to him. He's competitive in there, so I'll give him that.
He's better than me, but nonetheless, we went out. He got new golf balls for Christmas. He got 4 sleeves of 3, so 12 golf balls. We went out and played. He was determined he was going to use these golf balls. He lost 8 of them on the first round.
Yeah, that's how I am. That's exactly what happens to me, man. There's a big basketball action going on up in your old neck of the woods, up at around at Lallemure, but up north. Several IU targets playing up there over the next couple of days as they're having a big time tournament. 2023 forward Cohen Carr is one of those. But I know you have to bolt, right?
I got to bolt.
So until next time for Dustin Schutte.
Until next Thursday.
Yeah. Well, you never know. It could be sooner than that.
That's true. That's true.
You never know. But
it's always fun.
Brother. Have a great rest of your weekend.
You too.
Dustin Schutte joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Yes, Indiana taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes tonight at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. But tonight I was also talking about further north going on over the next couple of days. Not Montverde. Lallemure is hosting Montverde along with a couple others. Legacy EC. Let's see who else is there. Is IMG there? I don't think so. I think it was somebody else. But Cohen Carr, like I mentioned, a 2023 forward who is on the radar for Indiana. 6'7" power forward from Greenville, South Carolina. Multiple offers. Indiana, one of those. Georgia Tech, Memphis, Vanderbilt. Of course, he's a Southern kid. Those offers coming from down south. So if you're not doing anything over the next couple of nights, head on up. Rivals national analyst Dan McDonald on Carr says he's one of the most explosive athletes he's seen in a while. His perimeter skills coming along. Jamie Shaw says Carr is highly explosive forward, good length, and additional things as well. Also, of course, Jalen Hood-Schifino is playing up there with Montverde. Of course, you're very familiar with him as he is a commitment to Indiana. KJ Evans, Derek Queen, also in action. We'll have information on the Hoosier.com for that, and you can follow along there. But Indiana taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes tonight. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to speak with Mike Woodson and Rob Fennessy. John, if you have Mike ready, let's hear what Coach Woody
don't
has
have
to
him.
say.
We don't have him. I didn't know.
You don't have them. You didn't have them. You didn't have them. Will you have them in a second?
No.
Yes. Yes, we'll have that in a minute for you. You can pull that up, please, as soon as you can. But the Ohio State Buckeyes are a team they're playing just average basketball, but Indiana's not playing quite average. Ohio State is they're in their fifth year, and there was a discussion yesterday. Remember back when people were disgruntled with Archie Miller, and you said, "Oh, could have had Chris Holtman. Oh, could have had Chris Holtman." Well, what's Ohio State done under Chris Holtman? And I'm not bad-mouthing him, but they haven't exactly lit the world on fire. So, would you be any further along if Indiana had brought in Chris Holtman instead of Archie? Not now. But they're doing okay, but that's it. So, but he's at a football school. Makes a difference. Makes a big difference. He was born in Nicholasville, Kentucky, which is just south of Lexington. I did not know that. He's only making $3 million a year, so he's not one of the higher paid coaches in the league. Not a ton of pressure on him. They're paying him $3 million. That's lunch money from the football program. Lunch money from the football program. But Ohio State is a team that just they haven't done. I'm trying to I've got so many tabs open. Let's see exactly what they have done so far. Because they haven't what's their best win so far this basketball season? Now they're 3-0 in the conference. You got to give them that. They're 9-2 overall.
They have a home win against Duke. That's probably their best win.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great win. It's a hell of a win. Hell, they're 3-0 in the conference. They're one of only 3 undefeated teams in the conference. So they've won 5 straight. They're 6-0 at home. They're 2-1 on the road. So they have a winning record on the road. Tough teams. That's the one thing that they've been pretty consistent under Chris Holtman. They had 3 games canceled in succession on the 18th, 21st, and 28th of December. And that was before taking on Nebraska, a game that they would win. That was a tight game. I think that game, did it not go to overtime? I don't remember. It was a close one, though. But so the Nebraska game was the first game that after having 4 games canceled, but they had won 4 games prior to that, including Duke at Penn State on the road. Towson, then they totally destroy Wisconsin at home, 73-55. So they're playing really well, to be honest with you. They're playing as well as anybody in the Big Ten Conference right now. Everyone thought it was going to be Purdue and Michigan. Right now it's Michigan State and potentially Ohio State. Illinois, also 3-0. Of course, it's early. Most teams have only played all teams. Well, no. Rutgers has got 4 conference games in, but most teams have only played 3 conference games. Let's hear and you talk about playing at home. That's going to be of uber importance for Indiana. They cannot lose home games this season, period. Especially when you go on a road at a place like Penn State, you shouldn't be losing there. You can't afford that. But let's hear what Mike Woodson had to say about playing at home.
Well, I mean, again, if you're talking about winning at a high level, and if you're talking about trying to win the Big Ten, you can't lose at home. I mean, I go back over the history of, back in the days with Coach Knight, we rarely lost games at home. And, if you're talking about establishing winning ways, you got to win on your floor. And it's the same way in the NBA. You can't, lose half your games at home and think you're going to make the playoffs in the NBA. It doesn't work like that. So you got to, that was the first thing when I took this team over. From day one, I told them, guys, we got to win at home. And we'll figure the road out when we get out there. So, and so far we've done what we've said we were going to do. Ohio State's next. We got to win at home.
Exactly what he's talking about. You have to set a culture. And this team is still trying to find their own offensive culture and identity. The home thing has not played into that yet, I don't think, unfortunately, and it needs to, because they need every little bit that they can get. And I don't know that they have learned. Some of these guys are new, that they're not from Indiana, and they have not learned to integrate that in. And that's another thing this team has to do. They have to integrate the home court advantage into their play, whether their play is good or bad at the time. The thing about home court advantage is it can always just be what it is, and which can be very helpful. But this team is they're just missing little things, man. But they're little things that tie it together. It's just some of the links are just not linked from watching them, and you can talk about it over and over, and it just until it changes. And sometimes that takes time. Sometimes that takes changes. I'll be honest with you. I think that it is time for a different lineup, not because of a lack of production by this person or that person, but because of a lack of production by the units. These units are not productive. Find a different unit, a combination that may work better. I don't think that those combinations have been found yet. And it's like going back to not to the drawing board, but to the lab, so to speak. But who's the guy that's going to step up? And partly I wonder if people are too afraid. This offense runs through Trace Jackson Davis. There's no question about that. The new guys that have come in, Miller Kopp knows that. He's not going to take shots away from Trace Jackson Davis. Xavier Johnson's the point guard. He's not going to take shots away from Xavier. He knows that Parker Stewart knocks down 3-point shots at an unbelievable clip. And Race Thompson's doing this. And so I wonder sometimes if some guys are afraid of stepping on guys' toes. But it's time to just win and someone to just step up, game in, game out, be a leader, be a winner. And this team needs 5 of those guys on the floor at all times. Yes, outside of Race. Race Thompson has done an unbelievably spectacular year. And I'll go one step further. Right now, if the NBA draft were held, I would give Race Thompson a better chance on making it into the NBA than Trace Jackson Davis. As crazy as that sounds, you can call me nuts all you want, but Jesse says they need to be the team that played at Syracuse in the first half of the Wisconsin game. That team was getting it done in every aspect. Yeah, especially that first half at Wisconsin. But, of course, part of that was they were just hitting a ton of shots. Hitting shots gives you confidence in different areas. But, yeah, you're right. They've gotten a little lazy. Part of that's because they played this chump schedule with all these chumps. And I don't mean that's not fair to these teams that they play, but these teams that they're overmatching. And we're about out of time. So hey, make sure tune in. We've got the postgame show, of course, tonight as Indiana take on Ohio State. And we'll be there with you afterwards. So until then, thanks a lot to everybody for joining in today. Thanks a lot to Chris Denari, of course. Thanks a lot to Kyle Neddenriep, Matt Taylor, Dustin Schutte, and John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you all, there's no reason for us to be here. But we appreciate you. And back tonight for the post-game show after the game. And then we're back here tomorrow to see how this thing goes tonight. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.